Ah, Smart Water, now in a sleek can.
This feels cool, literally.
Perfect for social gatherings and on the go.
Should I start wearing turtlenecks?
One sip at a time, friend. Smart Water cans, for those with a taste for taste. Get yours today.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, my friends, to the Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. The fastest hour in American media. And as always, my friends, we have a lot to discuss in this hour. And we shall get busy with it all. A lot of things to listen to as well. Yesterday, I mentioned that Harvard had been in the news. We did not get to the Harvard things. There were so many other things happening. Spent the first part of the show yesterday talking about the thuggery that's going on in many American cities and the racial component to some of it, the cultural component that revolves around race in some of it. So ended up putting the Harvard stuff on the shelf. Today I do want to get to it because there's a lot going on that's really important, and it's not just Harvard. This signal is being sent to liberal academia around the country. For generations, conservatives have been talking about how liberal academia had become and how we needed to, quote unquote, take it back. But there's been nobody that I think could have foreseen where the Trump administration has taken this battle. Certainly not the good people over at, or the people over at Harvard University. And that's remarkable. Today in the White House, the president took a question that illustrates to me how dishonest and incredibly biased, and they always will be regardless, and disrespectful, that many members of the American journalists from the mainstream media are. And that's nothing new. You can go back to the days of Sam Donaldson badgering Richard Nixon, and I vaguely remember some of that. You can go back to Dan Rather and the phony story on George Bush's National Guard service, which ended up, I think, contributing to him being ousted over at CBS News back when the three main networks' evening news programs really mattered. Today they don't. But as you listen to this reporterette, I want you to just ask yourself a question. Number one, did Joe Biden really take questions from the media almost every opportunity that he was in public, whether it's meeting with a foreign leader or whatever? If he did, there were only one or two questions, 3 or 4 questions, and then the press were shooed out of the office. He never gave rarely gave impromptu press conferences. And certainly when Joe Biden did speak to the media, to the mainstream press, he didn't receive the kind of disrespectful, hostile questions that Donald Trump gets on a regular basis. But one thing that Donald Trump does with them is turn them completely around on the person that is asking these questions. Case in point, cut one, Carlos, today in the White House, this is the question that Donald Trump was confronted with.
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new term called the taco trade. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, isn't that nice? Chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till July 9. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And We have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me. He said, we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive, and you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number, and I go down a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl and many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that. But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest question. Wait a minute. Wait. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Well, and there you have it. And it was a nasty question. And they can always try to deflect it by saying, oh, well, Wall Street, somebody said, put a name to it. Who said it exactly? Who's saying it? But they can come up with what their own take is on something, or the take that they want to spread out there. They're calling it taco trade. Taco trade. Because you're chicken. Chicken? Donald Trump is the only president, and you tell me any other president that has taken on every single of the major trading nations in the world. Taken on the EU. Taken on China. Taken on Southeast Asia. Taken on Canada, our neighbors. Taken on Mexico. Taken on every single major trading partner that we have that was treating the United States unfairly with their trade. And he's the only president to stand up to all of them, the only president to ever stand up to NATO and force NATO to actually pay its dues. And by the way, they're paying a lot more than they were for their own defense now. The only president to seriously take on the federal bureaucracy, the only president unafraid of being called whatever names, and they're calling him every name they can find, to take on the left's pet issues, DEI, full on, not trying to hide around the corners and do it, not trying to hide what he's doing it right in the open, knowing what names he's going to be called for doing it, and how the mainstream press, with their biased, one-sided, liberal, ideological reporting, is going to do to him for doing it. He takes it on anyway. And this reporterette has the temerity to stand in the Oval Office and accuse this president of being somehow a chicken because he's taken on everything that the left has used to build an oppressive power base over the American people for generations. And inside of 4 months in office, he's taken on all of it. And this little reporterette stands up and basically accuses the president of the United States of being a chicken. Pathetic. I don't know what news agency she's from, but she ought to be embarrassed. And these people from these news organizations should be embarrassed. Not just because their own bias is showing, but because they're so ignorant. This perspective I have about what Trump has done, whether you like Donald Trump or not, whether you think he's the worst president who ever lived, or you think he's the best or somewhere in between, you should at least be objective enough to look clearly at what it is that he is doing. He's taken on the courts as well, and taken on the mainstream press. All of this simultaneously. This after, and many people would have just given up after the weaponized government of Joe Biden and using their proxies in New York, in Georgia, and in other states tried to ruin him, to throw him in jail for the rest of his life, to bankrupt him, and to damage his family. Many other people would have just given up. Why do I want to deal with such a crooked political system? They've taken their money, hopped their private jet, and jet out of America, never to return. Which was and is an option. Put their money in a Swiss bank account so that it cannot, or whatever bank account can't be pierced now in the Caymans or wherever it is, and just jet the hell out of here and just leave it all alone. Not this guy. Donald Trump withstood all of that. The humiliation that they tried to put him through, he turned it into a positive and wore their weaponized attacks like a badge of honor, and won what many deemed an impossible race. And this reporterette has the audacity to sit and accuse him somehow of lacking courage. Again, you don't have to like him at all, but just acknowledge what is right in front of your face. And then if you are honest and you actually know how to read a history book, or these days look at a video, for heaven's sakes, if you don't know how to read, if that's too much work for the reporter class these days, and contrast that with other presidents, and you see what Donald Trump is doing and how unique his presidency in this 47th presidency of the United States, how unique this is, what he is doing. Just be objective enough to see that. You don't have to endorse it. Anyway, the disgraceful press, not a surprise. They are who they are, which is why they're threatened with oblivion in many cases. 1983. James Golden, Bo Snerdley here. It is the Wednesday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Keep it right here. Do not go away. Fastest hour in American media.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Temptations Cat Treats. Your cat will come running for the perfectly irresistible Temptations Creamy Puree and Temptations Lickable Spoon Cat Treats. The best time to feed lickable cat treats to your cat is anytime. Feed by hand for a playful moment, in a bowl for a creamy treat, or as a topper to make mealtime fun. Visit TemptationsTreats.com to learn more.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
Faraday presenta Ojos con Alergia y Picazón contra el jardinero. Y el ganador es Faraday Extra Fuerte. Para aliviar la picazón de los ojos por alergia, actúa más rápido y supera a Claritin y Flonase aún a las 24 horas. Faraday, adelante.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
My 6th grader got caught with his phone this afternoon. They brought it to the office, told him I had to come pick it up after school, so I did that, and then they proceeded to tell me that I had to pay $15 to get this back via Cash App. What? Like, imagine how much money they're making off people like me and my son.
Everybody's a scammer. Okay, Harvard, we got to get to some of this stuff. We'll wait till after the next break to play President Trump today. He spoke about Harvard. New York Times yesterday updated. They originally published this back on May 22nd as more stuff happens, then updated it yesterday. All the actions the Trump administration has taken against Harvard. I could do the rest of the show on this one story because there are so many actions and so much details. But the New York Times says presidential threats, onerous investigations, extensive funding cuts. The Trump administration has wielded all three against Harvard University in what began as the work of a task force for the president commissioned to address anti-Semitism on campus. But it has sprawled into a multifaceted pressure campaign that leverages the scope and power of the federal government. 8 investigations spanning 6 government agencies, DOJ, Education, Health, Human Services. Some of those agencies include Department of Veterans Affairs. They pulled or frozen grants from the school and its research partners totaling nearly $4 billion. In a major escalation, the Department of Homeland Security says it would halt Harvard's ability to enroll international students. That is 27% of their student body, and that will cripple this school. So, that is, folks, only part of the story. Did you know that there is a provision inside the big, beautiful bill aimed directly at elite academia? It has been largely unreported, but it's in there. We'll discuss that and more. Please don't go away. Keep it right here on Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Factor. Optimize your nutrition this year with Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal service. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian approved, ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from 40 weekly options across 8 dietary preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Eat smarter at factormeals.com/listen50 and use code listen50 for 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Factormeals.com/listen50. Code listen50. Terms and conditions apply.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
This episode is brought to you by Hulu, presenting Paradise. Paradise is Hulu's critically acclaimed addictive drama series, starring Sterling K. Brown, Julianne Nicholson, and James Marsden. The Daily Beast calls Paradise your next TV obsession, and the New York Times says it's exhilarating in all the right ways. Paradise is for your Emmy consideration in all categories, including Outstanding Drama Series. For more information, visit fyc.hulu.com.
Grandpa's here!
Hank's always helping out, Grandpa style. Now he's treating his prostate cancer with help from Xtandi enzalutamide. Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRESS, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat start swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache. Talk to your doctor and visit Xtandi.com.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
My friends, the unofficial start to summer has begun. In many places down south, schools are letting out. They will soon up north, and many people will be traveling with their children. Whatever you do, traveling with your children, please don't let this be you.
According to this arrest report, Crampton and witnesses on the plane tell police the child called Crampton fat and Miss Piggy, telling her she couldn't fit in the airplane seat. That's when witnesses say Crampton began hitting the child with her fist and then hit him on the head with a water bottle. Then the report says she slammed the child's head into the airplane window. The child used his arms to cover his head. Airport police haven't said how old the child is, but Crampton told police the child was very rude and disrespectful during their trip to Disney, and that after the child called her fat, she took his phone away. She claims he then pushed her arm off the armrest twice, and that's when she began smacking him. But police and witnesses say she went beyond typical disciplinary actions. One witness saying the woman was not correcting the child, she was abusing him.
It's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
Oh, what a great surprise we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Spontaneousness. The spontaneousness of Her Highness is with us this afternoon. She has the background on the whole taco story, things I did not know. So, of course, I begged, pleaded on my bending knees and BVDs, I don't wear them, and asked her, please come on and explain this to the audience. Most of the time she tells me, go jump in the lake. Today she didn't, and she's here. Princess Diana Royalness.
Hello, Sir James. I'm glad you asked me, actually, because when I heard the question, and it was an obnoxious question, I'm not defending the reporter, about the taco thing that she mentioned, which she defined as Trump always chickens out. I had read the story in the New York Post yesterday that is what investors are saying. That is what leftist investors are saying. They have figured out that Trump has a strategy. They have understood that how he negotiates, and instead of giving him respect, they've invented this terrible acronym to smear him. They are making money hand over fist with Trump, and they will be making more, but they cannot possibly give him credit or be grateful for his strategy that is working to the benefit of all America. No, they have to basically smear him as chickening out. And this has been the leftist view of Trump and tariffs from the beginning. Before even the day he put them on, they started saying he doesn't really want to do this. He wants an exit ramp. He wants a way out of this. He's going to cave. He's going to cave. He's going to cave. Oh, he caved. They have been saying this ad nauseum from before it was Liberation Day, that Trump was going to cave. He's going to cave. He's going to cave. And so now they're using that same mindset when they see Trump negotiating and he puts on a high tax, which brings the people to the table, as Trump explained, and then he starts the negotiation process. And then he lowers it as a reward. And this has now been seen as a deliberate strategy, not some crazy thing. And instead of recognizing it, they still have to keep the same mindset because they're leftists and they cannot learn that Trump is caving. So they've changed cave to chickening out. So I think that Trump should actually be irritated at Wall Street investors who have coined this term. And the question was fairly legitimate to be asked about it. And so she didn't explain it well. And so I'm glad you gave me a chance to explain it.
Well, thank you for that background. And having that background, I would agree. I mean, these people, of all people, these so-called financiers are supposed to be smart. Right. Smarter than the average bear. And yet they can't understand and they can't appreciate what he's done. There has been no other president to take on the world. Exactly. Both the media world, the academia world, the military world, the government bureaucracy world, the mainstream media world. He takes it all on. And he's doing a bang-up job with all of it.
Yes. He really is, and he's bringing people to the table who ordinarily wouldn't have moved off the dime. And so that is what is being observed. And the Wall Street investors, instead of recognizing this is a brilliant and effective strategy, now have to come up with a way of smearing it. And in the meantime, as I said, they're the ones whose bottom line is being helped enormously. So they should be a little more grateful and humble.
Well, now that I have you here, Princess Diane, thank you for enlightening all of us on the backstory of that. Now that I have you here, what have we heard, Princess Diane, all our lives about the rich? What do the rich deserve? They
should be taxed and have their money taken away from them. That's how the
Yes. Yes, exactly. The rich tax. In fact, you can even get gowns with tax the rich smeared, painted all over the behind part of your expensive gown when you go to the Met Gala.
If you're AOC, yes.
Yes. Well, devastating piece of legislation. Wealthy universities fret over big, beautiful bills endowment tax proposal. House Republicans, as it turned out, Princess Di, want to tax the rich. Exactly what you're saying. They want to raise the tax on certain universities' endowment profits all the way from 1.4%, where it is now, up to 21%.
Ooh.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, it's so fun to have their business model turned on them and used on them. Basically, they never expected that to happen when they advocated for taxing the rich. And so now you've got businesses and corporations who will be taxed at 15%, far less than Harvard will be taxed at, which is, I think, wonderful when you think of who's more productive.
This is a devastating piece of legislation for us, says Swarthmore College Vice President for Finance and Administration, Robert Goldberg. It takes something that's fairly manageable to something that's not tenable.
Well, they'll just have to do some belt tightening, They should learn to code.
Swarthmore has, in Pennsylvania, a liberal arts college, has an endowment of $2.7 billion. They would be subject to a 14% tax rate on annual investment income. Private colleges with endowments of only little endowments between $750 and $1.25 million per student would be subject to a 7% tax. 5 institutions, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, Yale, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology are expected to all be in the top 21% tax bracket.
Oh, my goodness. I I just think that I can feel the shockwaves coming in Florida, and I can feel the shockwaves from the Northeast and the Ivy League. It is really delightful that their own, business plan has been turned on its head. Their business plan was to enrich themselves. For all these years, they've escaped any kind of analysis. I have never heard any of this information except for the last couple of years, that how greedy they are. And so, you live by the accusation of greed and you die by real greed.
Boom. And we have President Trump. And then, Will, did you hear President Trump talk about Harvard today, Princess Di?
I missed it. I read some of the headlines, but I didn't hear them.
I love it. Well, we have it. So listen to it with me, Your Highness. 17, Carlos. This is President Trump speaking. Was asked a question, yes, Ebonic, because we're celebrating American education. He was asked a question about Harvard today, and this is what he said.
How will the confrontation with Harvard end? Do you foresee?
I don't know. I don't know. Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they are going to teach remedial mathematics, meaning they're going to teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics? How did they do it? I mean, people with 1,600 in their boards don't get in, and they're letting people in, and they're bragging about how they're teaching them basic mathematics. Where did these people come from? So we have to look at the list, and Harvard has to understand the last thing I want to do is hurt them. They're hurting themselves. They're fighting. Columbia has been they were very, very bad what they've done. They're very anti-Semitic and lots of other things. But they're working with us on finding a solution. And, they're taking off that hot seat. But Harvard wants to fight. They want to show how smart they are. And they're getting their ass kicked.
Well deserved, too.
Let me just ask you about that, because this is something that I thought, look, it is actually their very own TDS that is pushing them. I have an NBC quote, which I won't use, a soundbite, where PMS NBC, one of their guests is talking about how, look, this is really untenable. They are in treacherous waters here. Yeah. But it's their own TDS. If, as the New York Times reported, this all began with the comments about what was happening on their campuses toward these protests and how badly the Jewish students attending these universities were treated.
Yes.
If Harvard had come back conciliatory, do you think, and just said, you know what, we agree with you, let's try to find a solution. This shouldn't have happened. Let's try to find a solution that you'll be happy with, that we'll be happy with, so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again. If they had come with that attitude, do you think that we would be where we are right now?
You've got a great point. And I had mentioned an article that I had seen in Politico weeks ago. It's called The Great Grovel, How Trump Forced Elite Institutions to Bend to His Will. Now, Politico's mad, but it mentions all of the legal beagles in Washington and some of the Ivy League who did negotiate with the Trump administration. Now, they call it groveling by Politico, but they made deals. They came to an agreement, and Harvard did not. Harvard went full left, and what it did was invite scrutiny. And it turns out there is so much more there, including a lot of Chinese students who have turned out to be spying for the communists of China, the CCP. So this is going on at Harvard, in Boston, in Cambridge, where you have actual spies on campus and in their researching. I mean, if they had just basically said, you're right, anti-Semitism is unacceptable, we will make sure that every student is treated with respect. And they didn't. They basically turned a blind eye to what was happening. Some of the video I've seen of these Jewish students being surrounded and jeered and pushed, basically they just wanted to get to across campus, and they've been blocked and pushed and harassed, and that has gone on for months. And Harvard did not crack down. So this is the FAFO. They're in the find out stage of what happens if you do not do the right thing.
And to me, again, their own TDS has put them in the situation. Yes. If they had just done the morally right thing, never mind, ignore the Trump factor in it. Just do the morally right thing, concede the point. We failed. We're going to do better. None of this would be happening.
You're absolutely right. Well, it's going to happen now. And so this is going to be an outcome that none of them would have voted for, and they're going to have no choice now. They could have basically been in control of how this unrolled, but now Trump is.
Now, very quickly, we got maybe a minute left. They're trying to make a big deal. Elon says, look, the spending bill, the spending bill disappointed him. Trump was asked about it, and he pretty much said, yeah, well, we're negotiating it. But they're trying to blow this up now into, Trump and Elon are finally at odds. It's over. It's over. Is it over? What do you see here?
Well, interestingly enough, Stephen Miller had a really important post on X, I think, this morning, where he explained, and I think a lot of people didn't understand, the difference between what this big, beautiful bill is and where you can make cuts. You cannot make cuts in this bill for spending that is not mandatory. And so that will have to happen in what's called a rescission.
Rescission bill, right.
Yes, which would be next. So I think there's been a misunderstanding. Those big cuts, those Doge cuts, could not, by their own rules, happen in this big, beautiful bill. So that explanation, I think, is very helpful. And I think that Elon didn't understand that the time is going to come for that, which is something that I don't know if you saw, but Speaker Johnson said he wants to do that next.
Yeah. By the way, what we hear the last is that the rescission bill is going to come either by the end of this week or early next week. The bill will hit the floor.
Yes. So, you see, people need to, we conservatives have been so beat up that we are often basically ready to feel like we're defeated again. And I think a lot of Trump supporters have felt that way because where are the Doge cuts? And they're coming. So do not lose hope and do not lose faith.
Amen to that. Well, Princess Di, what a treat. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to catching up with you at the latest on Saturday. Who knows, maybe before. Thank you, Princess Di.
Thank you, Sir James.
Keep it right here. Don't go away.
The Rush Hour with James Golden on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
PMS, pregnancy, menopause. Being a woman is a lot. Ollie supports you and yours with expert solutions for every age and life stage. They just launched 2 new products exclusively at Walmart. Period Hero combats bloat, mood swings, and more during PMS. And Balance Perimeno to support hormonal balance, mood, and metabolism during perimenopause. Grab yours at Ollie.com. Ollie! These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Mic check. 1, 2. Are we recording? Hi, I'm Michelle Bernstein, an award-winning chef, restaurateur, and mom. I have a lot on my plate, including my psoriatic arthritis symptoms. That's why I was prescribed Cosentyx. It helps me move better.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for people 2 years of age and older with active psoriatic arthritis. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your rheumatologist about Cosentyx.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
The Rush Hour with James Golden. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You know, Trump said he wants to send some of those billions going to Harvard University to trade schools. And Caroline Leavitt was asked about that.
And the president is more interested in giving that taxpayer money to trade schools, in programs, in state schools, where they are promoting American values, but most importantly, educating the next generation based on skills that we need in our economy and our society. Apprenticeships, electricians, plumbers. We need more of those in our country and less LGBTQ graduate majors from Harvard University. And that's what this administration's position is. And we also are not going to tolerate the illegal, criminal, anti-Semitic behavior that we saw take place at Harvard and many other college campuses across the country.
Ew. May God bless and protect each and every single one of you, your families, your loved ones. Ladies and gentlemen, God willing, we are back tomorrow for the Thursday edition of Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. Until then, my friends, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour. You can hear Bo Snerdley's Rush Hour weekdays at 4 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?